What could it be?
What is the Gobi Desert? The Gobi Desert is a large desert region located in the northern parts of China and the southern parts of Mongolia. The Gobi Desert has a rich history. It housed the Great Mongol Empire and has several important cities along the Silk Road. For the most part, the Gobi Desert is not sandy like the Sahara in Africa, but mountains and rocks. The Gobi Desert is currently growing, especially at the southern edge. Every year China has to fork over around 3,600 square kilometers to the Gobi Desert. This is mostly due to human activity, like deforestation, overgrazing, and the depletion of water resources. China has tried various plans to stop the growth of the Gobi Desert, but has yet to succeed. Their latest plan is to build a green wall around the Gobi Desert to contain it. This wall will look like a rainforest around the desert. Building a forest wall might seem weird, but this is not the only weird thing in the Gobi Desert. What are we looking for? Alright, well, let's have a look. We're gonna zoom in to Google Earth and see for ourselves. The Gobi Desert has been a hotbed for speculation in the last years. People have found many odd-looking sites and structures and came up with the most interesting theories for them. Let's start off with this area. It looks like a circle with 3 plains in the middle. It is hard to see what the circle itself is made of. It could be stones, sea containers, or maybe walls. It's a bit odd to have these plains sit in the middle of nowhere. It could be a monument or a practice area for the military. This area looks like a big grid with angular shapes in it. There are a lot of theories about this one. Some of them include a target lock for the Chinese spy satellites, street layout for military practice, or aliens. Going a bit to the left, we arrive at the structures that may look like runways. But if we take a closer look, the material the runways are made of is a bit odd. It looks closer to metal plates, the ones that are used on roofs, than concrete. The structure can't be too high as there's mud going on the top of it. The length of the big structure is about 3 kilometers and the small one is about 1.5 kilometers long. Next to the so-called runways, we have these stone structures. The buildings here have the same color as the ground around them. Either they're covered in the same soil or they're cut out in the rock. Also note the craters around the structures and even on top of them. Is this again a military practice site where artillery or airstrikes are tested? If you look closely, you can also see tunnel entrances as well. Also close to the runways, you can see these plastic or tinfoil structures. One could imagine seeing streets and buildings, or, since we're close to the runways, it could be another dummy airfield. Looking closely at the picture, you can see some of the foil or plastic or cloth is torn. This is a picture of some torn apart buildings. Why is it here? Why is it destroyed? What could all the foil looking material be? Insulation material perhaps? This is a picture of the leftmost runway. As you can see, the material used is completely different. Again, what look like tunnel entrances can be found in this picture. And now for the final picture in this area, we can see another rectangle with angular shapes in it. This one seems to have lines that are more straight. It also looks more faded. Could it be older? Next to it we can find a big square. It looks like the top soil is scraped off. One can note that the square goes through a river or stream. Then, a bit further north, we can see these patterns in the side of a mountain. These shapes go on for dozens of kilometers. Finally, we get to this site. It looks like a massive airport of some sort. People have speculated that this could be a secret airbase, with the circle in the middle being an elevator going underground. Others think it could be the location of a secret space program, where the Chinese equivalent of the space shuttle takes off. Another theory is that it could be an alien base. Well, what could it be? A lot of people seem to think this could be an airport or a secret military base to test UFO technologies. After spending some time looking over the area, a number of details started to become clear. First of all, the markings on the runways. These do not look like markings you would see on typical runways. Then there is the length of the runways. They are very short, so it would be hard for any aircraft of reasonable size to take off from them. Looking around, and more specifically the base to the south, there is not a lot of infrastructure going on to support 8 so-called runways. One could imagine that if you have 8 runways, you would also have an enormous amount of buildings to store all the airplanes and equipment. Going to the point of a secret military base to test UFO technologies, in our opinion, you wouldn't need runways at all. Advanced UFO technology could probably take off vertically anyways. So, what do we think this place could be? Well, let's have a look at some more details. First, we can see a picture of vehicles, or, to be more precise, trucks. These trucks are parked in the middle of this location, which makes us think they play an important role here. Other than the trucks, this area seems to be quite deserted, so what could they be used for? It certainly does not look like this area needs a lot of goods being transported. On this picture you can see that whoever is operating in this area put road marks on this stretch of concrete. If you look closely you can even see an intersection with what looks like traffic lights. At the end of the road we can see tire tracks turning. It looks like vehicles drive along the road, get to the end and then drive back. Looking at the amount of tire tracks, this area seems to get a lot of traffic. Why are these trucks driving up and down this road? The areas on the next picture look like tests for backing into a parking lot. You can see the truck tracks arriving, turning away from the parking lot, and then backing into it. What could these mysterious aids be? It looks like they are made with tire tracks, as they have 2 lines next to each other. These aids also look very bright, but looking at other tracks in the area, this could be a combination of the trucks removing the top layer of soil and revealing a lighter soil below with the tires, and the camera being used in the satellite. Why are these aids all over the place? There seems to be variety in them. Maybe the people working here are trying to fine-tune a certain pattern, but for what? That question brings us to this picture. These lines seem to be in the shape of a course that trucks can drive through. Inside of this course one can see a lot of tire tracks. This must mean that a lot of trucks drive through this course. We can also see another aid appear, but this time it's made with traffic lines. Are the aids in the dirt created during tests to drive properly through this aid and the rest of the course? We think this is the case. That brings us to our theory. We think the people using this location are testing and fine-tuning self-driving trucks. The trucks, the roads, the driving courses, it all makes sense to us. Here we can see a dirt road in a ditch, probably for testing the trucks off-road without any white guidance lines. You can also see a few bridges. Is this also for the trucks to drive over? Navigating these narrow bridges could pose a serious challenge and something worth looking into when designing self-driving trucks. The next image has a circle on it, which some people call an elevator. This could be an explanation why there's not a lot of structures above ground, but looking at the shadows, it looks more like a circular wall, representing a roundabout. Also note the tire tracks going around it. To the side, one can see another test course. It looks like one where the truck can drive into, it then has to back into the next part and continue driving forwards to get out again. We did some research and found a Chinese company called Too Simple working on self-driving trucks. Like Tesla, Too Simple is a company that wants to cut costs in the transport sector, and they hope to accomplish this by making trucks drive autonomously. With all these arguments in mind, let's have a look at the other locations. Maybe we can explain some of them with the self-driving truck point of view. Going back to these lines and patterns that are found in the side of a mountain, zooming in a bit, we can see there are actually 2 lines next to each other. These lines are probably made by trucks. We think the people testing the trucks made this huge grid to see if the trucks would be able to stay on course over very long distances, and if they will navigate around obstacles and then continue their path. As you can see in the top left, the truck marks start to become a bit chaotic as they drive around the rocks. This is an area in the larger pattern where there is a lot of rocks, and as you can see, the trucks have to navigate around them. Maybe these white rectangles can now be explained as well. We think they could be some sort of puzzle for the navigation system, to navigate through the puzzle in the shortest way possible. Another point to mention is, they are doing this in the middle of the desert, with not too many people around and lots of space. It's the perfect place to test self-driving trucks. All in all, we think that the Chinese are testing self-driving trucks in the Gobi Desert. For what we see on the pictures, it makes a lot of sense. But what do you think? Is it self-driving trucks, or could it be something else? We found the following article about driverless trucks. China startup races Tesla with driverless trucks in Arizona. A Chinese startup with powerful backing plans to test a fleet of self-driving trucks in Arizona and Shanghai next year. Chinese startup Too Simple just raised $55 million to bring self-driving trucks to the US. Too Simple, a China-based autonomous truck technology startup that is backed by Nvidia, has raised $55 million in a Series C funding round led by Composite Capital. While Too Simple, Uber and others are racing to develop reliable autonomous systems, questions remain as to how quickly governments will be prepared to allow 40-ton 18-wheelers to come barreling down the highway with no one at the wheel.
That is some quality theories.
Thank you so much.
Commence system shutdown.